purposes. Discretion is advised.
Well, hello and a very special warm welcome to all the kids at the Windsor Woods Elementary School. And welcome aboard on this sunset safari. We're coming to you live from the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa, and my name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera in the crow's nest I've got Fergus. He's going to help us look for all the animals out here. How's it, Fergus? And hello to all of you once again. Now please don't forget to send us all your questions through your teacher, and because we want to know what you want to know about the African bush. Now we've come out and we've got a very special surprise for you, because those antelope that you were watching, those are impala, and they were a little bit nervous because there's something sinister hiding in the bushes there. What is that with all those spots on him? Ooh, not looking good for them. Braden, I'm hoping that you're going to see what I'm seeing right now, Mr. Braden. Look at those spots. And so I think your chances of seeing a leopard have just gone massively up. Because there is one, but he's lying down and he's snoozing in the bush. He's just waiting maybe to see if something comes walking along and he doesn't notice him. But those impala on the other side, they haven't seen him, but they've smelt him. So they're very nervous now, and because they know that there's some kind of cat lurking in the bushes, and they need to be very careful, because they don't have mom and dad to protect them. They're all on their own out here, and this leopard could very easily turn them into dinner, which wouldn't be nice for the impala, but the leopard does need to eat, doesn't he? And hopefully he's going to get up and show us himself just now. But we're very lucky that we've been able to spot him here in the bushes, because he's very camouflaged, isn't he? Now, I'm not the only one out here looking for animals and trying to find all sorts. My friend Steve, he's out on foot.
Good afternoon, boys and girls. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I think it's only morning for you. My name is Steve, and I'm joined on camera by Senzo, and we're out on foot in the African wilderness, and all around us are trees and grasses and the potential to find lots and lots of animals, which is very exciting. We look down on the ground. Just here, there's a number of dung piles. We've got a young zebra. This is from a zebra here. This is from a wildebeest over here. Two very, very interesting animals that like to hang out in these open areas where there's lots of grass. But I don't know if you can tell. It's very windy today. We've got a bit of a weather system's come in. It's very windy, rocky. We don't see a lot of zebra, but we do see them from time to time. The last few days they have been around. But when it's windy like this, standing out in the open, we're very exposed. So what we're going to do, we're going to go down that side where the slope goes down a bit and into sort of the river, watch out Senzo, into the river depression where there's more trees and bushes, and that's where the trees are going to shelter the animals, and that's where they're going to be hiding. So that's where we're going to go. Hopefully we can find you some. But what's really nice about finding dung is, you know, the animals have been here. Not only dung, you can also look sometimes for footprints in the sand. It's not a very clear one, but out in the sand you find dung, you find tracks, and then hopefully we get to find you some wonderful animals. Don't forget to send to your questions with your teacher. Let us know what you'd like to see and what you'd like to talk about. And lots and lots of information out here in the African wilderness. And while we continue on to see if we can find you a zebra, another gentleman is out, and his name is Sydney.
A very, very good afternoon. My name is Sydney, and I am traveling with Craig this afternoon. we are going to be with you on this drive. And for your questions and comments, you can simply follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive, and also on YouTube chat stream. My plan for this afternoon is quite very easy. I am going to be looking for Tandy and Kalamba. Hopefully they might be somewhere around Mamba Road towards Drakensberg Road. The weather this afternoon is overcast, and there is a little bit of wind, and it's cold. It's cold a little bit here where I am. So I am going to try by all means and get you see the interesting animals. My trekking is going to begin here. Yes, Alex, the question about the rain in winter, we do get some rain in winter, but not too much, unlike the summer season whereby it is always raining after a couple of weeks, couple of days. But in winter, yes, here in South Africa we do get some rains, but I am very convinced enough that it might rain today. How the weather is building here is convincing, although I know weather is unpredictable. Yeah, let's go to Ralph. Ralph has got Hosanna. Maybe Hosanna is doing some activities on the other side.
Well, Hosanna is the name of this young male leopard, and he's called that because he's the little chief. So that's why we called him that. That's what Hosanna means. And, well, the little chief is now a little bit snoozy, isn't he? He's had himself something to eat in the last couple of days, so he may be just quite happy to snooze around. He's got a full belly, and so he maybe not do too much this afternoon, but it's still nice to see this leopard there with his beautiful spots on him, and we can just see the edge of his ear as well. None of the other animals really know where he is. Like I said, it seems like those impala did smell him, but they haven't seen him. Alan, the biggest predators that we have here are lions. Now, they're not quite as big as bears that you might get in America, but they are still very big, and they're only smaller than tigers in the cats. But the leopard is then smaller than lions. So this is the second biggest predator out here in the Kruger National Park. But he's being quite a relaxed predator, isn't he? He's very, very relaxed. He also needs to get his sleep. Sometimes they stay up all night going around looking for food. So then very often during the day they can spend a lot of time sleeping. But it's nice and cool here today. It's not very hot. And you can see, by the way, the grass is moving, that there's quite a bit of wind as well. So I'm sure he's quite relaxed, quite cool. He's a cool cat, I would say. A very, very cool cat. He's the coolest cat in town. Right, so we're going to stay here with this cool cat, but I'm going to send you on over to Steve. It sounds like he's got some cool tracks.
Yes, well, thank you, Ralph. Isn't Hosanna the coolest cat ever? Well, I promised you we'd find a track, and we're in the sand here, and you can see, I'm just going to use the stick here. You can see this round bit over here. Can you see it? Very round. And then over here is this funny little thing that they actually, in horse terms, call a frog. Very strange. I've asked lots of people why they call it a frog, but see how I've put my knife here to measure it? It's very good to get a measuring, and then having a look at the book. Here you can see the book. You can see the shape I was showing you before, that round bit over there, and then that funny thing at the back called the frog. That's the characteristic track here of a zebra. And before, remember, I pointed out that dung on the floor, the poo. There's the zebra poo right there. So we definitely have zebra around, and this is quite fresh. This is probably from today sometime, maybe even yesterday. I'm not 100% sure, but we're going to see if we can find them for you, because they are such a beautiful animal. Definitely one of the favorites out here in the African wilderness, and so nice to see the tracks. I wonder if you boys and girls have done tracking before, because it's so nice when you do know a little bit about tracking. You can go out into the woods, you can walk around on the ground, and you can see little animals that have come. You don't have to see them, but you know that they were there, which is very, very special. Up we get. Hello, Miss Cameron. Cameron, you want to know if there's any dangerous bugs, insects, or snakes? Well, yes, there are some scorpions, a number of scorpions. I might try to find you a scorpion hole. There are lots of snakes. I haven't seen too many lately, and there are a few insects that are quite dangerous if you eat them, and some of them have the potential to sting. But the list can really go on, and it is something that I know a lot of guests I had many years ago were always so worried about, all the things that can bite you. Well, if you leave them alone, they generally leave you alone. So scorpions don't come out looking for us, but if you do walk around at night, it is important to use a torch, purely because of snakes and scorpions. But there are certain bugs that sometimes can get into your bedding and into your clothes, and they can leave you with a few sores. But, you know, I'm still alive. I've been in the bush for a very, very long time, and the animals aren't out here to get us. But what they do, some of the insects, I don't have any insect books on me, I'm afraid, but they'll show you a certain coloration. There's this coloration where they have a black and an orange, or a black and a yellow. Those insects, normally, you should leave them alone. Don't touch them, don't go near them, and most especially don't eat them, because they're probably poisonous. So that's something to pay attention to. And if a scorpion with a big tail moves around, well, just leave him alone. And if there's a snake, well, just let him do his own thing. No point trying to catch a snake. Just let the snake go. Ask a professional to come and catch the snake, rather. But there's lots of dangerous things out here, but it's not good to think about the African wilderness as a dangerous place to come. Come here with the objective of enjoying and breathing and taking in the wonders of the surrounding area and the beauty that all these animals actually have. Because yes, the only reason that they are potentially dangerous, is to protect themselves and to survive in an ecosystem that is very, very difficult to survive in. So for them to still be alive, they have to be very strong and very good at doing what they do. Okay, well, we're slowly coming down the hill. We're going to be in that little drainage sort of river depression soon. I'm sure we'll be finding an animal in the next little while. But in the meantime, Sydney, he's got an update from the vehicle.
I've got a very interesting animal here. I'm just going to show you now. It's quite a very, very, very beautiful animal, and it's doing something which is very rare. If you can just check there very nicely, that animal is eating some bones on the ground. It's something very interesting to see here, because the kudus, they are very popular of browsing. So a browser is the animal that feed on leaves from the trees. So, but today, the kudu have shown us something interesting, as he was feeding on some bones. When these animals are lacking of some of the minerals, such as calcium, they've got to come and eat this kind of bones from other old dead animals. So the kudus, the difference between them and the male and females is that the males, they carry horns, and the females, they don't carry horns. And males, they've got some beard. Females don't have beards. Males, they sometimes walk together. You will see them a lot working together, forming some bachelors. Kudus, they are not territorial, but for them to establish families, the males, they've got to fight for that kind of an access. So I'm just trying to see if these other ones here nearby. Now I'm battling to see. You can see he's still trying to chew that bone. It's quite difficult for him because he cannot swallow that bone as a whole. He must have to chew it and try to moisturize it, and he's not gonna chew everything. He's just gonna be absorbing all the saliva that is now consisted of calcium coming from that bone. Look at that. So these animals can grow very big horns. So the horns can grow and they can complete the cycle of horns in about 4 to 5 years. They can be able to develop nice spiral horns. So for them to complete the spiral, it takes time. And you can also be able to determine the age of the kudu just from the horns. See, it has got a very beautiful V just between the eyes. That is part of their defense mechanism. So when the kudus are threatened, mostly they can look for the nearest thorn tree and just go there and stuck their back against the thorn tree just to avoid predators to approach from behind, so that predators can be able to come and face the horns. So they use these horns for self-defense. This is their biggest weapon. And they can jump. They can jump from 2 to 4 meters high fence, and they've been recorded jumping high distances from a standing position. Look at those ears. You can see they've got a very big ear. So these ears helps these kudus in order to collect a lot of sound coming from a long distance. You can see every time it's moving the ears, so they use them in order to hear the predators trying to stalk them from a very long distance. Remember, these animals, for them to get hold of a lot of diet, they're going to have to go deep in the thick bushes in order to forage there. So in the thick bushes, it's not much easy to see if there is predators around. So that is why the kudus are well gifted. So the big ears can be able to help them when they are concentrating. Oh, here comes another one at the back. I saw just a movement there, but it's not clearly visible. I got a question. I just did not get the name of the teacher from where the question is from. The kudus, the males, you must check when they are about 5 days old. You will see the buds showing where the horns are going to grow. So, but for the twist to take place, that is when they are about 18, when they're about 12 to 18 months, that is when you will see them curved. The way they are now, that kudu, it means he is still less than 18 months. So they start to twist between 18 to 22 months. So maybe that other one behind is coming also to visit that area where this one managed to pick up the bone. So now by this time of the year is when the animals are lacking of a lot of minerals. Now we can go to Steve on bushwalk and see what he's got.
Thank you very much, Sydney. Well, you found probably my favorite antelope, and I was going to show you something about that antelope. I found some of its poo. Yes, I did. And it's very important to know the difference between animal droppings. And yes, I am touching it. I'm not worried about touching because it's a vegetarian. Now, if I show you here, there's a few pellets. This is probably from a male kudu. It's quite big, actually. It's over a centimeter. But some people might think, but why is it not a giraffe? It's big enough almost to be a giraffe. But if I show you on the ground here, can you see the dung is kind of spread to about that far. It's not very far, boys and girls. I'm just going to demonstrate something for you quickly. A giraffe is very tall. A giraffe at the bottom is about 6 foot, and a kudu is about, at the bottom is about there. So very, very different. Now, if a giraffe happened to walk here, look, this is about 6 foot. If the giraffe just took half a step, the dung would just spread out too far to be a giraffe. So that's something that you look at when you're looking down on the ground. And definitely a vegetarian. And the difference between them, they eat a very, very similar food, in fact. And I'm going to show you inside. Can't break it. I'm going to have to use my teeth. Look at that. See, the kudu has eaten leaves off the trees and then ground it down to make it very, very fine. Very fine. And then they get maximum amount of nutrients out of their food. I know your moms and dads probably tell you to chew your food properly before swallowing. Well, the kudu, same as the giraffe, they will eat lots of leaves and swallow, and then they'll put it back in the mouth and chew it again and again and again until it goes down. And those very small, fine particles then get broken down and all the nutrients taken out. And then the kudu and the giraffe, they take these pellets and all the moisture gets sucked out of it like a straw, and then they come out quite dry and very sort of well processed. So they also can save on lots of moisture that they might have in the diet, which is very important when you're a browsing animal. Very good. And as we walk along, you'll notice it's quite tricky because you can see this tree here. And this is where the kudu is going to be feeding. This is where the kudu is going to be feeding. And if you look around the sort of height here, there's not much leaves left for the kudu. Not much leaves at all. So animals like Hosana are trying to catch the kudu as they get a little bit weaker.
Well, everyone, we've just managed to come around and get a better view on the little chief called Hosana, a beautiful leopard. And there we can see now a little bit underneath his neck and his feet also. And just if you look closely, you can see his eye. So there he is. And he's still enjoying his snooze. He's very relaxed, not doing too much, is he? You wouldn't even think that there's a leopard there. He's still wondering if he's alive or not. But he definitely is. He lifted his head up a minute ago. Braden, we do have some fresh water with crocodiles in it, and there's a couple of water holes here that have got a few of the big crocodiles. So yes, the answer to your question. And well, we can't see the little water hole that we have here too well. There's a little water hole over there, but there's no crocodiles in this little water hole. And there's another one that is a bit bigger, and that we do have very big crocodiles in it. And we also have some other lizards called monitor lizards that are nearly as big as crocodiles. They get up to about 2 meters. Very, very big crocodiles. They almost look like Komodo dragons. And they also come from eggs, so they're a little bit like birds in the way that they reproduce. But Mr. Hosana is not putting on a show for us, is he? But this is not a zoo, so we can't just go and see the animals in their cages whenever we want to. This is much better. This is wild and free. And these animals do whatever they want to, whenever they want to. Sounds quite nice, doesn't it? Don't you wish you were a wild animal? I do sometimes. I don't want to be a wild animal that gets eaten by a leopard. That's the only thing I don't want to be. I'd rather be a leopard. Now, Lily, we do see lots of monkeys. And thanks for your question, Lily. And I tell you what, we have a lot of monkeys that come into our camp and they steal all our food off our tables. And we need to chase them away because they can be quite naughty and full of nonsense. So they actually become our friends, but we do need to keep the kitchen door closed because if they get in there, they can make a real mess. But we do like the monkeys. They are very, very cute. And we also get some other things that look like monkeys, but they only come out at night. And those are called bush babies. And they jump between the trees much better than the monkeys do. But Hosana here, he's not doing any jumping or walking or anything for that matter. He's really enjoying his sleep.
Might be in his dreams.
I think he's dreaming. What do you think he's dreaming about? I think he's dreaming of rabbits, chasing rabbits. All right, so I think we're going to hopefully see Mr. Hosana wake up in a minute, and while we're waiting for that, I'm going to send you on over to my friend Sydney, who it sounds like has found something.
There is quite a lot of dead trees here which has been pushed by the elephants. So the elephants, for them to feed every day, they must have to feeding on these trees. Yes, some of the trees, they're going to have to uproot them, and some of them, they just break branches and still leave the trees alive. So these trees, the remains from these elephants, we don't have to take them from the field, because if we do that, we will be disturbing the nutrient cycle. When the trees are dying, we've got some of the small organisms which are responsible to come and break down the dead bodies of these plants and animals, which is fungi and bacteria. When those insects are breaking down the dead bodies of these plants and animals is when they're providing nutrients for the soil. And if we come and collect this as firewood, it means the soil is not going to get food to use in preparation of the seeds germination. In other words, if these branches are not taken back to the soil is not going to be nutrient rich and the seeds are not going to grow flourish. Trees are part of the very important things that contribute a lot towards the human survival. Something you've got to remember is that the survival of us men depends on the survival of nature. And we've got to wait every time for nature to take its course. We don't have to interfere. So I'm just going to carry on now and see if we can find something interesting. I've got a question from Ian. Yes, we do have a lot of elephants in the reserve, but the population of elephants we've got the vegetation which is enough to support them. Remember, when we are managing a natural system like this, we do quite a lot of sensors. We also do some of the vegetation monitoring. We check if the number of animals we have got is in balance with the type of food they have got. Animals, they don't feed on the same diet. Some, they eat grass, they are grazers, and some, they eat vegetation, specifically, they eat trees. So we have got to create kind of a balance between these animals and what they eat, so that they don't distract everything. So I am going to carry on now and see what we are going to find next. We can now go to Steve, who is walking through the bushes.
Yes, well, see how low down I am? We're just crossing this little sort of dry riverbed. Don't know if you can tell. You can't really see it, but if you look at the leaves next to me, they're not moving. See, the wind down here is gone. So this is areas where we're expecting to find animals hiding. Kudu, maybe not zebra, because there's not really too much for them to eat down here, but it's possible. They could be down here. We're hoping to find them, but definitely kudu and nyala. And as you can see, that leopard himself is also enjoying hiding down there in the drainage. And as Sydney was showing you, that kudu is enjoying that bone, because this time of year, unless they come down into these low-lying areas, there's almost no food for them. So they need to eat the bone because they need calcium for their strong bones. So that's why sometimes you see animals like giraffe and kudu, even porcupine, eating on a bone, which is quite funny to see, seeing as they are vegetarian. But this is what they're looking for. They're looking for these leaves, all these sort of things here, which are very tasty. If you're a kudu, they're very tasty. Rocky, you want to know if there's tortoises in Africa? There are. There's at least 2 species that we see quite commonly here. One is called the leopard tortoise. Yes, very cool. He's got spots like a leopard. The other one is called the Specs tortoise. I'm forgetting the name now. I don't have my book on me, but we've got one by the name of Gregory that likes to come into our camp all the time. The ladies that I work with absolutely love Gregory. Would you believe it? Gregory is actually a girl, though. But anyway, that's another story. So we're trying to get out of the thicket. And before we go out, a little surprise for you. I found a little seed pod down in the bottom there. This is one of the plants that grow down in the depression there. It's very pretty, isn't it? You see it's got 4 wings. It's staying on the tree. Sometimes you can find all sorts of things living in and around. But I love this little trick. Are you ready for it? We open up. Oh, look, there's the seed inside. How beautiful is that? Now that seed right there, if you pop it out, if you plant that, that will become a beautiful tree. There's 2 more. There we go. For you boys and girls, take them. You can take them for yourselves. You can plant them back at home. And plant it, nurture it, give it lots of water, lots of sunshine, and one day it'll be a big tree. Give you lots of shade around your school. Very cool. On we go. Through the thickets. It's nice and quiet down here with no wind. And when it's quiet like that, it means that the kudus can hear animals like Osana moving around, so they're not as good as hunting. So we're going to go back over to Osana, who seems to have found a little bit of shelter.
Yes, and well, lucky for the kudus, Hosanna is now just sleeping still and dreaming of chasing rabbits, I would think. And what do you dream of when you go to sleep? Eh? Hoping lots of nice things and playing with the fairies. Now, Ariana, thanks for your question. There are rabbits here, but they're a little bit wilder, so they're called hares, and they're a little bit different to rabbits, and those are the ones that we mostly get. They're called hares, and you know the story about the tortoise and the hare? They're very fast when they want to run, and they're definitely faster than tortoises. But they also do sometimes get caught by the leopards. They're like little snacks. So it's like going to the movies and getting some popcorn. And that's like the leopard's popcorn, as the little scrub hares. And did you see there, I think he was having a little bit of a problem in his dream, a little bit of a twitch. And look at his whiskers. You see those very white hairs? That helps him in the dark. When he's walking around and there's no light, it helps him move through the bushes. He can feel with those hairs, he can feel all the little sticks and everything as he moves along. That helps him a lot when it's dark. But he is a very pretty cat, and he's a lot bigger than he seems, eh? But he's just nice and deep sleep. But, well, I'm just hoping that he maybe do something for us. Now, Braden, thanks for your question. Remember that water is, all the animals, nearly all of the animals need to drink water to survive. And there's a little water hole up there that I showed you. So all the animals, from elephants to lions and leopards and cheetah and kudu, and even that little bird there called a grey go-away bird, has to come down to drink. And why is he called a grey go-away bird? Because he makes a call, and when he does, he goes, go away, go away. So he's always telling us to go away. He's not a very friendly bird, always telling everybody to go away, because he's all grey and not friendly. Look at him. Yes, doesn't like people or animals or anything, because everything he sees, he tells it to go away. We should tell him to go away. Hey, let's say it together. Go away! Go away! It doesn't look like he's listening. I think he's too thirsty. All right. Well, while we watch this bird, I'm going to tell you to go away.
I am trying to get hold of the tracks of some of the cats, and seems to be very difficult this afternoon. However, I have got a very interesting track to show you. Let me show you this track here. I just circled it earlier on. This is one of the very pretty tracks on the ground. So I want to show you the negative impact of trekking during the windy days. So when looking for these animals, if it's too windy, it's going to be very difficult to judge the age of the tracks. So look, this track has been here, and it's difficult to tell the age of this track because I can see that the wind has blown it. To make it simple, I am going to step there so that you can see this track. It's nice and clear, and I'm going to blow some air on it. Look at that. So you can see that it's quite very difficult when it's windy to do some training, some trekking. Maybe this is one of the reasons why I am battling to pick up the tracks for the cats I am looking for. I am referring to Thandi and Kalamba. The track I have got here, it is a track that has been left behind by the spotted hyena. So I know people, they do have some confusion between the cats and hyena tracks. Hyenas are not cats. So if you can check here, this track, I'm just going to draw on it so that you can clearly see it. This track has got some kind of 2 lobes. So if you check the cats, they have got like this. They have got like 3 lobes. So that is the difference between cats and the hyenas. So here, I cannot see very well if this has been the hind or it has been the front foot. But you must remember that if it's the hyena, the tracks that looks much bigger on the ground mostly is for the females. Females, they are a little bit way much bigger than the males. So then the males on the ground, their tracks, they look much smaller. So now I am going to carry on and see if we can find some of these cats that I'm looking for this afternoon. But the wind, yes, is interfering a lot on my operation this afternoon. But that is normal. Wind is part of nature. So I've got to accept that. So now we can go to Steve. Steve has got something interesting to share with us on ants.
Yes, well, we found a small tree I was going to talk about, and we looked very closely at the tree, and there's thousands of little ants running around on it. And what these ants often will do is there will be very small little insects on the tree that are able to suck the juice like maple syrup out of the tree. There you can see a little bit of a ball. of it. Can you see that golden syrup there? All the ants are around. But that's a very big one. That is what the ants put out. Not the ants, the tree puts out to protect itself. Almost like our scabs and our scars. When we get injured, our body heals itself. And that is what the tree does as well. But the ants are running around and they are protecting the tree against all sorts of other insects. That's why there are so many. And they get sugar, little treats, from the smaller insects that are able to suck the juice out of the tree. Very, very interesting. There are thousands of them all over. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this tree was because this is the kind of tree that the kudu and the giraffe would really like to be feeding on. You'll be able to see these leaves now. You see these thorns. They're unbelievable. Look at those thorns. That's my finger there. Look at the size of that thorn. So the thorn is there to protect the tree against kudu, and the kudu are trying to feed on the leaves one at a time. Ow! They're trying to grab them, and the thorns are basically preventing them from doing so. But these are the trees that the kudu are really looking for. Look at me trying to grab one with my mouth. Ah! It's very hard. Ow! It's very difficult. So the kudu will come along and will feed on this. Giraffe as well, and impala. I don't know if you've seen an impala yet. They'll feed. See how slowly. Look, I'm going to go for one. There's one leaf. Oh, that took a long time. I'm going to eat it. It's not as good as I thought it would be. But look how long it took me to eat one leaf. So the thorns are here to protect the tree and to slow down the feeding. So when the kudu comes, it has to eat very, very slowly. And at the same time, the ants on the tree, protecting the tree against very small little insects that we can't even see. Parasites that are trying to harm the tree in some way. So this is a very, you can actually see by the shape of the tree. Can you see it? It's not growing, it's been hedged. I don't know if any of you got hedges back home, that someone comes along and sort of cuts them in a sort of shape. Well, this one has been hedged by kudu and by giraffe, and maybe even by impala. So it's not getting much bigger than it is right now, but it's still doing very, very well. But this is a tree we'll find those animals eating lots and lots of the leaves on. It's their favorite type of food. Still got some of the green stuff. Okay, well, we're going to continue on. Hopefully we're going to find you that zebra we've been talking about. In the meantime, let's go over to Ralph and see if Osana's going to wake up.
Well, everyone, this Hosana, the little chief, is still sleeping. Wow, he's really, really taking it all the way, hey? He really, really is sleeping. And, well, he's just really relaxed. Now, Alexis, there's 3 girl leopards in the area here where we are in the Kruger National Park, but in the whole area there's lots and lots of them. I would say a couple of hundred at least, because it's a very, very big area that we stay in here in the Kruger National Park, and it's nearly, if you get your teacher to show you, as big as the country called Israel. So it's a massive area, and in that massive area there's a lot of different predators, lions and leopards and cheetah and wild dogs and caracal, and so it is wonderful to be out here in the wilds of the Kruger National Park. And these animals do not act on command. They are really, really wild. They are not tame. They're not like your little doggy or your cat at home that you can touch him or feed him. If you had to do that here, I think you would have a very big surprise. But this kitty cat, as I like to call him, is not doing too much at the moment. Really, really relaxed. He's making me sleepy. I feel like I should also go for a snooze now. So, all the kiddies, I'm very sad because I'm going to have to say goodbye to you, and I'm also very sad because our little leopard here, he didn't get up and show us his face, but maybe he's just a little bit shy. So you'll all have to join in with us again, and we will really be hoping that we hear you all again sometime soon. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and for everybody else, I'm going to send you on over to Sydney.
A very, very good afternoon. My name is Sydney. I am traveling with Craig. I am going to be with you this afternoon, and I hope you're all going to enjoy. For the questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, hashtag SafariLive, and also on YouTube chat stream. My plan for this afternoon is not difficult at all. I am so very lucky already because I managed to pick up some tracks for Tingana. I am going to go down and see if maybe these tracks are going to lead us to an animal. The weather is not that very bad. It is overcast and yeah, it's chilly a little bit, but I think for the cats it's not bad. I am going to try by all means to get you see a lot of animals this afternoon. So I just want to see if maybe I'm gonna see those tracks again, because it is on this road where I picked up the tracks all the way from up there. Now, the only challenge I've got this afternoon is the amount of wind in the area. The wind is just coming and going, and it's just blowing to all directions. So the wind probably makes it very difficult for us to track, because it does blow the fresh tracks very easily. Rivri, thank you very much for the comment, for being interested on my jacket. Yes, this is one of the warmest jackets I've got. So where I come from Tabazimbi, which is just about 180 kilometers from Johannesburg. Tabazimbi is very cold. It's way much colder than here where we are now. Colder than Juma. So now let's go to Steve. Steve has got something to show you on guided walk.
Yes, well, we found some activity of elephants, and this is something that you see very commonly this time of year when it comes to the elephant feeding. And what we've got really is a very broken, uprooted plant. It's not completely dislodged from the ground, but if you come a little bit closer, Sens, you'll see the track here of an elephant's foot. Elephant was here with his feet on the ground, was probably trying to grab this, and at the same time kicking, trying to dislodge it. And this is one of our grevias, one of the raisin species that you find around. I think it's a white raisin, if I'm not mistaken. But you don't get very big ones. You see, this is about as big as it gets. The elephant feed on the sticks. On the sticks as well as the roots, as you can see. The leaves are quite edible as well in the growing season, and the fruits are very, very tasty. But elephants like to do this, and you can see he's gone and ripped out the bark. Here's some more bark. There's a second plant there. But outside of sort of fenced areas, these don't get very big in an area where you get elephants. In places I've worked before where we've kind of got a camp, these get enormous, really, really big trees. Not enormous, but very, very, well, much bigger than we see them out here. Because out here they get very stunted, because the elephants absolutely love them. And in their wake, look at this disturbance that's been created in the elephants feeding to get the nutrients out of the vegetation. The ground is much softer here. All sorts of seeds and leaves and organic material is going to fall here. And it's another little spot, a little hot spot of activity and disturbance. And it's part and parcel with what the savanna biome is all about. And just here is another one. Another raisin, one that didn't get this time attacked by the elephant, but you can see there's a lot of dead branches in here and just small sort of coppice growth. Coppicing meaning that when they get damaged quite a lot, they grow from the base, from the roots. So you can see that this tree was probably dead at one point above ground, and then all the young shoots come from underneath. Okay, so that's one that is surviving at the moment, but they get an absolute hammering by elephants in this time of year. Gary, elephants actually are quite clever. You know, sometimes when they grab grass, for example, I'm going to demonstrate it for you now. They do it the same with grass as they do it with trees. They'll grab here, and once they get the dirt out, oh, I'm not doing a very good job. I'm going to leave that guy there. But once they get it out, they whip it against themselves. They whip it up and down with their trunk. You've seen them with their trunk. Their trunk is very flexible. They'll flick things and they hit it against their body, and then all the dirt goes off, and then most of it's off. They still get quite a bit in their diet, I'm sure, but they get most of the chunks and the sand off. But when you see them with grass in the dry season, they're physically doing what I'm doing now, and actually I'm not doing a very good job, but they try and pull up the whole thing. But in the growing season, they'll grab it and they'll kick it. They'll grab it like that and kick it so that the roots stay in the ground, and then they get the top part of the grass, which is the stuff they're looking for. But this time of year, because the grasses and the trees, which are all very well adapted to fire, take all of their nutrients down into the ground, where they have all sorts of specialized organs and things down there which will help them to grow next time when the season grows again. Very nice. Tasty? I don't think so. Oh, Sinak, no. Elephants have got a terrible digestive system. That's the reason why they have to eat so much. They reckon that they only digest about 40% of what they take in. When you see the elephant dung, the droppings that we find on the ground, that's 60% of what the elephant is fed upon. So out of, say, 300 kilograms or 600 pounds of wet matter that a male will eat a day, let me work out my maths. 60% of that comes out as dung. So it's not very well digested at all. But then that perpetuates organic material. It provides food for termites. It provides food for guinea fowl, francolin. They'll feed on the organic material in there. The seeds, insects will grow. So the dung itself becomes an ecosystem. So they've been around a long time. The ecosystem engineer not only destroys and makes habitat like that, and disturbance, it also takes a lot of vegetation from the tree that's alive and growing, deposits on the floor in the form of organic material. And the depositing of organic material is the most important aspect of nutrient recycling out in any ecosystem. And here in the savannah, they're one of the most important ones. Okay, we're going to continue on. We're heading on down towards Treehouse Dam. Who knows what we're going to see along the way. This is the area where we've been spotting that very misunderstood buffalo bull. So hopefully we get to see him. But in the meantime, let's go over to my favorite friend, Hosanna.
And Hosanna still doing what cats do best, sleeping, snoozing, and he even tucked his legs in now like he's very cold. It's almost like he was just bringing them in under his belly because he's feeling a little bit chilly. And he's really put himself nicely in a thicket there. So he's a little bit sheltered, keeping himself nice and warm. We have seen with the thermal camera how warm they do indeed make the surrounding area, because we had Tingana the other day lying underneath a log and just touching on the log as well, and as soon as he rolled over we could see the heat spots where he was lying, and it was incredible how he had actually raised the temperature in the entire area, and even parts of the tree as well that his foot was pressing up against. It was very interesting. We've got some spurfowl making a racket. Now, Paula, you say that you're excited that Hosanna's around. So am I. So is everybody. And I think when Steve spotted him, when was that? 2 days ago? It was a revelation. We were all just totally stoked that he's back. And for how long is anybody's guess? I'm hoping that he sticks around almost imagine if it was permanently. We could see him every day. He's such a relaxed cat. I've never seen a leopard as relaxed as this, apart from hand-reared ones. This is an incredible viewing cat because of his uncanny ability to be so relaxed. And there he's rolling over a little bit. Oh, now we can see the very white belly. Look how he's tucking his paws in like that. He's obviously very comfortable. Now, Wendy, you say you can't believe he was up hanging all night with his dad, and it was probably like a homecoming. Although between leopards it's not as welcoming as we might all think or want. Lots of snarls and a bit of growling and, but still tolerating him. And what I'm happy about is it was probably mostly Tingana sharing his meals with Hosana, and how the tables have turned. There comes Tingana. He's got lots of wounds on his leg and on his ear, and probably not at his best physically. And so he, before last night, he also went and stole some food from Tandi, who had also killed a duiker, and then Hosana arrived, killed a duiker, and Tingana came and stole some from him. So it seems like it's all a happy family. But as I say, not quite in the human sense of things. They're not giving each other hugs and kisses. And there are definitely lots of claws and snarls and showing the teeth. And so they're tolerating each other. They're not exactly, greeting each other with lots of friendliness, but that tolerance on its own does show that there is an affinity between them to some degree. But he is a very special and beautiful cat. Look at that pearly whites there on his chest. Obviously that very useful now, keeping him warm. And I'm sure he's a little bit more comfortable now on his back as well, because his belly is quite full. He's eaten pretty much, I would say, the lion's share of the duiker that he killed. I don't think Tingana would have gotten too much. So at least he got most of his own. I did have a look in the tree, and it seems like there's only parts of the stomach left there. So hopefully we've seen him stalking a little bit, but hopefully we do get to see him get up and do a little bit more.
A good sighting of Hosana on the other side. I am still looking for Tingana here. The tracks got disappeared somewhere around this area, so I'm just gonna hang around here and see if I'm gonna manage to reallocate the tracks again. So, but now I'm going to show you something very much interesting I used to do while I was still very young. So I have got a very, very interesting tree here. This is one of the very popular trees here in Southern Africa. It's called the Ziziphus macronata. The Ziziphus macronata is one of those trees I was using while I was growing in order to treat some stomach problems. When having stomach problems, going to report it to the elders, this is what they were going to say. They are going to say, no, just go and grab a spade and let's go to the bush. Off we go to the bush, and when we get there, this is what we are going to do. We cut roots. When I get to the roots, this is what I'm going to do. We dig and then we find the roots. When I get to the roots, I must have to cut a small piece of the root, maybe of this size, maybe a small piece of this size, and I must have to cut it and don't close the hole. I must leave that hole open. So now I must have to go home. When we get home, we are going to cook some soft pap, soft porridge. And then that soft porridge, it will be consisted of that small piece of a branch. And then we're going to cook everything together after that, we must have to leave that soft porridge for a while so that the top part of that soft porridge get dried a little bit. Then we can take it as a cover. We take the top part of the soft pap and we take that stick, and this is what we're going to do. We go back to the same tree with the hole open, and we take that branch, and then we take the soft pap, the top layer of the soft pap that I have taken out. I must have to come and wrap it. I must wrap it here in order to join the branch that has been cooked and the branch that is under the ground, the root, where that root originally came from. Then we're going to link them together like this and close that hole. Soon as we close that hole, the pain in the stomach is going to disappear. And it works. That one, I have been doing it for a long time. And not only me, and not only my family, a lot of the people who grew up in Venda, which is where I come from, the northeastern part of South Africa, in the province Limpopo, which is not very far away from Johannesburg. So this is how I was treating the stomach pains. So let's go now and see if we can reallocate the tracks for Tingana. Maybe we're going to find him. Who knows? Let's try. So at least the wind is cooling a little bit. It's not too much at the moment. Much better. So now let's go to Steve on a guided walk and see what the guided walk is having for us at the moment.
Thanks very much, Sydney. Well, I found some more dung. You know me, I do quite enjoy my dung. And I talked a little bit about disturbance before and how this environment is sort of catered for it. Obviously, it needs to be managed though. And this is the dung of a warthog. And I could tell that by the fact that there was, you see that piece is quite big. Got almost a slight sort of brownish tinge to it, or reddish tinge with the black. But it was quite big. And there was only about 5 or 6 pieces. So break it open inside. Very similar to zebra. Actually, I am lying. This is definitely a zebra. You see how it breaks perfectly like that? That is a zebra. It must have been a zebra that had only half a bowel movement and then moved off. So don't worry, I'm not going to talk more about it, but it is still a very similar dung. And normally the comparison between the two is the amount that's on the ground. And warthog also got a little bit more of a dent over here. I like to refer to as zebra dung. Kind of resembles a Zippo lighter in shape. But what's characteristic of a zebra is it breaks perfectly like that. Okay, well, what I wanted to talk about with the warthog is that the warthogs walk around and they feed quite low to the ground. So what I was doing before with that grass, try it again now. I was doing with that grass before, the warthogs, they will graze down just like a zebra will, but warthogs have the ability to actually, that's not going to work. They got a very strong mouth, and they do a lot of digging and end up uprooting lots of grass, feeding on the roots. And what that does is it leaves a natural disturbance on the ground, which is fine. It's perfectly normal. It's perfectly natural out here. We're seeing the elephant doing it. But in areas where predators have been eradicated, for example, down in the Eastern Cape, where we don't see as many leopards and lions as we'd like to, warthogs are just all over the place. So their numbers need to be controlled because of their ability to feed low to the ground like that can be very destructive. The zebras will feed like this. So zebras are not destructive, and warthogs will feed destructively. But it's part and parcel of the disturbance factor we find here in the savanna biome. Perfectly natural, and with animals like Osana, Hukumuri, Tingana, and Tandi, all the leopards we have around, we see plenty and plenty of warthogs, but that balance is there. And as soon as you eliminate one predator out of the system, you can see entire ecosystems change. And I will allude back to the example of the wolves being reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park. They saw over a period of 10 years a change in the ecosystem to such an extent that the reintroduction of wolves changed the course of the river, the flow of the river. Isn't that incredible? So us as humans need to understand, you know, the ability that we have as conservationists and the eradication of predators, large all the way down to the bottom. What effect does it have on the ecosystem? Yes, you want to see lots of animals around, but they need to be in balance. If we saw warthogs absolutely everywhere, well, there'd be an enormous amount of destruction, enormous amount of overgrazing, and we'd basically see, you know, and what we want to see, actually, I'll finish my thought later, is a leopard.
Yeah, I am very much lucky at the moment. I managed to get hold of Tingana. So I'm just gonna try and see if we can have a better sighting. Yeah, it's quite a very lovely animal, eh? So I told you that the tracks for him was very much fresh. Yeah, this is very much interesting. I'm so very much excited about Tingana. Eh? It's something that I was not expecting, because when I started, I was hoping to see Thandi and Kalamba. So I had no intentions to look for a Tingana. So you can see Tingana is just trying to move towards the eastern side of the reserve. Yeah, it's trying to sniff. It's trying to sniff something there. Thank you very much for all the comments. Yeah, I just want to try by all means and make sure that we... So yeah, now let's go to Hosanna, where Ralph is at the moment.
Well, that is wonderful. It seems like it's Tingana Tuesday. Well, at least we're with Hosanna as well. So the two boys, we've got them. That is fantastic. Well, let's hope that Tingana is doing a little bit more than Hosanna is doing. And I wonder how his wounds are going and his limp, and as well as his ear. So that's going to be fantastic to see. And I'm going to definitely go back and find out from Sydney. But you guys are going to know before me when we go back to Sydney with Mr. Tingana and have a look at his ear and his wounds on his leg. I'm hoping they're healing up nicely. And I wonder what happened there, if it was an altercation with hyenas. Because I think so, with that thermal image that we got and we saw those wounds, it did look suspiciously like hyena bites. But, well, we'll just have to wait and see how that unfolds. Waiting and seeing what unfolds here is not producing too much, except for Hosanna passing a bit of wind. With that fat belly of his, he's obviously letting some of the gases escape. Gary, yes, when a cat shows his belly, he's definitely very relaxed and also very secure. This cat in particular is just generally like a real hippie cat, I would say. He's not much really phases him. He's definitely of the more relaxed type. He's not highly strung. He's not like Shudulu's kind of sort of mentality or persona, should I say. He's very, very relaxed, and what I've seen of him, he's just really chilled out and so relaxed. It's actually wonderful to see a cat like this. It's nice to see all the different personalities. Shudulu, very highly strung, moving around all the time. Tandi, also quite sort of erratic, could I say. But Mr. Hosana is not nervous in any way whatsoever. But we can see now a little bit into his ear. He's not even twisting his ears or anything. He really just chilled. And I mean, anything could come walking up to him now, but he's put himself in a very good spot in a little thicket there. But even though he's fast asleep, I'm pretty sure if something did come nearby, like an elephant, which it seems like they might have done a little bit earlier, because I see a lot of elephant tracks around. I'm sure that the Fergus saying also behind us, you can see the tracks. I'm sure that you would have seen them on the dam cam. I wonder if he just crouched down into the bushes. He definitely didn't run off because he's here, unless he was hiding up in the tree. Well, I wish this guy would get up and walk around, and at least there is somebody out there that is walking around.
Yes, indeed, it's good to stretch the legs. A beautiful afternoon. And so sorry that I had to quickly cut my thoughts short, but what I was talking about is warthogs and the destruction. And we do see lots and lots of leopards around. And how many animals they eat a year, it's very hard to really put a number on. They reckon that lions need about 100 animals per year to sustain one lion. Leopards, I don't really know, because they eat scrub hares, they eat franklin, they eat all sorts of monitor lizards, and who knows what else they might eat. But having a healthy predator population goes in balance with your prey population, but eradicate the predators, and you're going to see this huge spike. And I know North America's seen it, where there's white-tailed deer all over the place, and the ramifications of that, well, they changed the flow of the river in Yellowstone National Park. And by the reintroduction of wolves, the wolves started hunting the deer in the valleys, and the deer kept out of the valleys, and so the trees that were growing in the valleys started growing back along the river courses, started growing back, and the birds came in, and the production or the distribution of seeds increased, and then the trees started growing because the birds were the birds started feeding on the trees that were producing the fruit, and slowly but surely the vegetation increased, and the meandering of the river changed its course, and that is from the reintroduction of one predator. I find that very interesting. So we live in very sort of wild places, and we see the dynamics. I mean, we see hukumuri and all sorts of other leopards feeding on a number of prey animals as they go. And it's important to know, and sometimes you do feel a little bit sad for the warthog, but it's important to know that they're in balance, and they breed very, very well. They're very successful in everything that they do, but they're part and parcel of the environment. They provide the food, they cause the very small disturbance that we see around, and they're also quite funny to watch sometimes with their mohawk. So Luke McDonald, who was directing for us for a couple of months, he's just sent through a comment saying he's missing the bush lesson so much he's had to tune in from Durban. Well, Lukey, it's nice to have you on the show. Senzo is also waving. We do miss you here. I was running on my own today. Conrad was too busy working. So Luke and myself and Conrad have been doing a lot of exercise together. And with Luke gone and Conrad working too hard, I have to run by myself. Lukey, miss you, buddy. Well, we're going to go down to the watering hole now, see what we can see. In the meantime, let's see if Sydney has caught up with Tingana.
Yes, I am still here, and then I am behind Tingana. I'm just trying by all means to have a better sighting. So you can hear some of the small animals started complaining. So I am sharing this sighting with my other colleagues. Let me just quickly speak to I'm just trying and see if we're gonna get. Yeah, we can go to Ralph. He's got Rosana on the other side. I'll be trying to follow Tingana.
Yes, well, still nothing happening here. Hosana keeping us on our toes. Daren't go anywhere because he might just roll over or flick his tail, and that would be a terrible disaster if we missed that. But I'm really hoping that he might get up and go for a drink. That's what I'm hoping for. But it would be rude to leave Hosana without sticking with him because, well, this could be the last time we ever see him. We might see him for another day, another week, another month, or another year. Who knows? But this might also be the last sighting. So we're just enjoying that and hoping that he does show a little bit more of himself. And, well, I'm just enjoying being in his presence. I hope you are too, and I hope you do want me to stay here. Now, Marcy, well, I don't think that if Hukumuri had to threaten Hosana that Tingana is going to run to his rescue. I think Hosana is now his own leopard. He needs to fight his own battles. He needs to catch his own food, and he needs to make his own way. So I don't think that Tingana is going to come to his rescue at any time. So there's always that possibility if Hukumuri had to make his way into the area here, that he could definitely pursue Mr. Tingana, Hosana. But I think what keeps him a little bit out, and that's Hukumuri I'm talking about, is the presence of Tingana and the conflict that they could possibly have. And Hosana is very lucky that Tingana tolerates him and allows him to be here in his territory. So it's that relationship that is allowing Hosana to have a safe haven here for the time being. Whether or not it will always last remains to be seen, but it is quite special what we have here. 2 males and the older one allowing the younger one to literally come and spend time in his territory. It's not unheard of, but it is not normal, or it's not the norm. Generally, once they do get of age, the males would chase them away, and that would be that. But this is a very little special arrangement that seems to be unfolding between these two. And we've seen Hosana, seeking out Tingana on numerous occasions. And so and Tingana seems quite special in that he shares even his meals with his adult cubs. It's quite incredible. But maybe that's down to the nature of Tingana rather than the others, and maybe that gene has just now gone through onto Hosana. Maybe he'll do the same with his son, allow him into that, into his territory once he establishes one. Imagine if he had to still make this, make it like not a coalition. I don't think that that's ever going to pan out. But imagine he had to find his own little spot here on Djuma, within the confines of the 2 territories, the Hukumuri and Tingana. You find his little gap in between there somewhere. But I do fear that ultimately he's going to come into contact with Hukumuri, who I think would give him a good workover and probably chase him off. He's just stretching a little bit and making himself more comfortable. Now, Chansey, it's difficult to tell between the two, Hukumuri and Tingana. We'd actually have to get them in the exact same spot. And I mean, for a screenshot to try and, level up their ratios. I think that Hukumuri's got a huge head. I think he's probably got a bigger head than Tingana. But I think Tingana's got a bit of a bigger body than Hukumuri. Now, whether it's because Hukumuri's head is so big that it makes his body look small, or whether his body is a little bit smaller that makes his head look big, in comparison to Hosana, that I'm not quite sure. What I do know is, I think Hukumuri is definitely going to be the up-and-coming youngster. He's got time on his side. He is a real young territorial leopard coming into his prime, and Tingana's star is slowly starting to fade. He's entered the twilight years. It's not going to be too long, and he's going to be getting into real old age. So it's inevitable that eventually he is going to be pushed by youngsters, and Hukumuri is obviously one of those up and coming that is going to do just that. All we can do is wait and see. I know there'll be lots of theories and people that know these particular individuals more than I do. I just, talk on a real generic way of leopards. But there's no avoiding the fact that Tingana is heading into his later years and Hukumuri just coming into his prime. So it's always going to eventually land up in the older one, passing on, and the younger one coming through, and then the succession just continues. It's the same with the females, from Karula now to Tandi, and then the next two, hopefully Tlalamba. Maybe she hangs around and takes over here. Shudulu also in the same league as Hukumuri, as the female though. Still hasn't had cubs, but, it's maybe imminent, maybe soon. Maybe she'll have cubs with Hukumuri. But Tingana could also mate with her in the meantime as well. So, at least this isn't the only cat that has been spotted. Sydney, how is your bundu bashing going for Tingana?
Yeah, I managed to reallocate Tingana. You can see there he is right in front of me. It's quite a very beautiful, nice and big cat, eh? So you can hear some of the small mammals are complaining. You can hear the squirrels are complaining about this big cat. Look at that tail. Quite a very long tail, eh? It can go up to 60. Yeah, from here where I am and looking at the movement, I am not seeing him limping. I think he's getting better every day. So let me just try and follow him a little bit and see. Yeah, but I'm not seeing any sign of limping at this stage. Yeah, Tingana is now very far away from where Hosana is. The gap between this is a couple of kilometers. So I can see now he's doing something. I'm not too sure what he's trying to do there, but I will see. Sydney, I'm standing by, Sand. I just want to give some other stations some updates. It's not mobiling at the moment. It's very stationary, relaxed. It's just relaxed. At this stage, we are not at the junction exactly. I am somewhere in between the junction and Drakensberg Road. Thank you. I think I've got an audio of a vehicle. I don't know if that is your vehicle. So you can see now he is, okay, see the tail of the leopards, it can give you quite a lot of information. When this tail is waving a bit, going side by side, is when he is interested on something. Mostly, it can be a prey. Sometimes the tail can tell you about the presence of the other predators in the area. The tail can also tell you the mood of an animal. When this animal is not happy, it will show you makers of the tail. So now I am going to try and follow him so that I don't lose him. Let's now go to Steve and see what he's got on the other side.
Yes, well, we've been on a bit of a topic of food and animals grazing, and what we've found now is one of the biggest grazers of them all, and that is the termite. And we've found a number of little holes and burrows around with characteristic accumulation of straw-like material on the outside. And this is characteristic of the harvester termite, but they come out when the temperature is quite low, and there's not too much sun, and they move around, and all this grass material gets accumulated. And then what they've done is, because it's been overcast and potentially there's been some rain on the horizon, they've formed this long tunnel turret over here, which is just sedimented closed. I'm just cleaning around a little bit, not disturbing it in any way, but they've accumulated. Look at all of this. I'm going to put it right back, but look at all of that. And that is just one hole. Now you can see the turret, that they've raised it to prevent maybe any rain running in. But we found a number of them, little keyholes that have all been closed. These have all been dragged here by the harvester termite when the UV light has been very low. And as soon as they're ready to do it, they'll open up the hole there and they'll drag all this vegetation, all this grass inside where digestion and decomposition will take place, which is very, very cool. So we talk about the warthog being an overgrazer. A lot of people don't realize how much of the vegetation is actually munched by the very small and inconspicuous termites. A huge amount. So very important to understand the process. And on we go. Again, up we get. Very cool. Number of little all around here. This huge Aristotle's kneecap. Hello. Aristotle's kneecap, that is a fantastic name. You want to know when last we watched dung beetles? Well, at the moment, the majority of the dung beetles, especially the big ones, the ones that pick up the balls and roll them away, they're not here. They have buried the balls in the ground, and their beetle larvae are busy feeding on that dung inside that hole and inside the ball, and slowly but surely will become a dung beetle by next rainy season. If we find a dung pile, or a midden, for example, there might be some endocoprids, so there might be some dung beetles living inside that dung, and there might also be some paracoprids right down underneath the dung pile, but they as well will be inside of their ball doing their thing. But this time of year, you get endocoprids, which basically mean living inside endo, and they could be active this time of year. If we scratch around in a rhino midden or in some elephant dung, we might find some. But invariably, this time of year, the dung beetles, their numbers do decrease to a huge extent. This is the time of the year the termite does their thing, does their decomposition and recycling of nutrients back into the environment. But as soon as the rains come, The rain falls down, it softens the ground, and the dung beetles will pupate out of the dung balls and climb up. Either they've been rolled away, they come out of the ground over there, or the paracoprids underneath at the bottom of the dung pile, they'll just come up to the top again and move out, and they'll start their life cycle again. What have we got there? Well, we have got a very furry scat over here with lots of hair. What do you think, Herbie? This is definitely a leopard, eh? Yeah, by the size, you go with a leopard, probably a male. You see the white. I'm not going to touch it. The white furs in here, maybe there was a Nyala, or possibly could be from an impala. It's very hard to say. It could be from the neck of a warthog, but an enormous amount of fur that has come through the digestive system there. Just on the side of the road, as the cat is moving, decides to have a little stop, a little break, drop the scat on the side, and it's got a little bit of an odor, so we're not going to play with it or anything like that. Well, an animal who's probably going to be climbing up in the next little while to deposit one of those, Ralph is still with him.
Well, yes, he would, and as I've said before, the first sort of defecation or scat after a big feed is going to be black slop. And it is very, very pungent smelling, very strong. And so once they do that, and as I say, he's been letting off a little bit of wind, which does smell pretty bad. And then after that, it does, get a little bit more solid in the stool. And eventually all the way down to the hair at the end. So that's sort of the cycle of the scat, how it goes through the cat. And well, he normally also just puts a bit of water in between stools as well, so he'll drink. And yeah, this is toilet habits that we're talking about. Sorry for that. But well, it's all part of the natural cycle of the little feeding or digestive process. But well, there's not much else going on here. I think he's just digesting, and that's about it, other than dreaming. Now, David, leopards will use, they can use the same tree, but they won't do it every single time. It's obviously different. They're going to be catching animals randomly in different spots. But they can, for instance, if Hosana kills another animal here, I would most likely say that he is going to put it up on one of the trees, well, the same tree that he put it up on here, this jackalberry. But if he then had to go and catch something else, now there is that jackalberry over there. So he stuck the doka up in there, but because it's the most prominent tree in the sort of direct vicinity, and it's nicely sort of leaved as well, they don't always like to take it up in a dead tree because then it's exposed, and then you've got the vultures coming in, and everyone can see it. So he took it up into that fork that Ferg is just showing you now. And perfect, nicely hidden, and he's also got nice shade, so if it was hot he could sleep there with his kill, and so that's a perfect tree for that jackalberry there. And so when they go around, they can routinely maybe take it up, a few same trees, but I would definitely say that Hosana could take up another kill up that tree if he had to kill something here in the same spot. But otherwise, as he's on his travels, like Tingana, like Tundi, they would probably also know or have identified by actually doing it some great trees for hoisting. But it all depends on where exactly they make their kill, and they'll just go for the closest real prominent tree from there. It's normally marulas. Marulas make ideal hoisting trees. Jackalberry's another one. Obviously quite tough to take it up a knobthorn. They don't generally, like this one in front of us here, it doesn't have great sort of V's in it, and it's obviously also got lots of thorns in it. So, they might take something up there if that was their last resort, and, there was every chance that there might be some hyenas around and so on. Generally, more so the bigger trees with lovely V's in them, like a jackalberry, like a marula, false marula. Sorry guys, Ferg just telling me my mic is breaking up, so I just quickly put it in a better position. There we are. Let's see if that's better. So yeah, that knob thorn, obviously not ideal, but it would work if they had to. Well, he wouldn't be able to sleep very well up there. A much better tree in the jackalberry for sleeping, for stashing his food, etc. But sometimes they get a little bit out in the open or in a bit of a difficult spot where they've actually made their kill, and then they just literally take what they can get. And, you know, sometimes it's all about just speed and actually getting it up a tree because, you know, if the hyena's around and they catch wind or hear that animal that the leopard has just killed, they can move in very quickly. So sometimes the leopard definitely needs to move fast. And I've also seen Tandi when she's had a duiker, and she's actually brought it onto the ground for the sake of her little cub, Tlalamba, so that she could eat nicely because she was struggling in the tree to actually eat nicely. So take it on the ground, and then the hyenas come in and chase her off, and she had to take it back up in the tree again. So, you know, being on the ground, not a great thing with the leopards. Oh, he's actually moved. Wow. He just did a little, maybe a scratch on his face. So, yeah, and that's also one of the reasons why they do try and subdue and kill their prey as quickly as possible, because any squealing or noises that come out like that, hyenas and lions, they know that sound, and they'll immediately run in that direction and try and steal it off of them. So if they can get whatever their prey is dead without making any sound, that's obviously the ultimate. And well, getting it up a tree is even better.
I have got one of the very, 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 very good-looking tree. After such a lot of hard work of looking for Tingana, I am now off the area as Tingana just decided to go to the private concession whereby I cannot go and look for him anymore. Maybe he's going to come out while I'm still in the area, but I saw that he's got a lot of interest of going in there because he was heading towards the eastern side of the game reserve. So I just want to show you something very much interesting. This is the silver cluster leaf. You can see the leaves are much more silver, which is where I believe the name silver cluster leaf derived from. So when experiencing problems such as toothache pains, you can come and chew the leaf. It's not that very sweet, but it's going to help you. Apart from the toothache pain, this tree, when experiencing problems with things such as the headache problems, you come and then you take off the bark. You can peel the bark and take that inner bark and use the inner bark. You just have to wrap it around your head and you tie it there. In a very short while, that headache is going to disappear. So this is one of those trees that are medicinally used, and it's one of the trees I grew up depending on in order to chase away the toothache pain as well as the headache pain. Until today, I'm still relying on this tree. When I'm doing these kind of activities, guiding, when attacked by the headache, I don't go and look for the tablets. I know it works, and I've been using it for a long time, and doesn't even have side effects on me because I've been using it for a long time and I've never experienced problems. Yes, the saliva is going to get a little bit of sour, but that little bit of sour is what we are looking for because it's what is causing medicine in order to chase away these kind of headache and toothache problems. I will be now heading to Chitwa Dam and see what is happening in that area. Maybe we will be lucky and see some other interesting animals on the way. So let's go to Chitwa Dam and see. I didn't get the name of the viewer very nicely, but I clearly got the question. Kanti, the best medicinal tree I have seen here in the wild is, I will show you one of the good days when I see it. The best tree I have seen here in the wild is a tree which is called, we call it Invenda. I haven't seen it here since I've started. I'm still looking for it in the area. It's a tree which is called Mukubazwibi. Mukubazwibi, it means it's a tree which is used in order to chase away the evil spirits, and also it helps when it comes to the bad luck. When I see that kind of a plant, I will show you, and that one is the best, and it doesn't take time. Here, that leaf I have taken from the silver cluster leaf there, I still have got it, and now we can go to Steve. He's got something there.
Yes, well, we were talking about dung beetles and potentially where they are at the moment, and we are looking at an impala midden at the moment, and there's some fresh dung over here. You can see it's still quite wet, and there's lots of dry stuff through the season. And I've found a couple little pieces here that potentially had an endocoprid living inside. You can see how they've physically eaten out the dung. There's a couple of them there. And then they just keep perpetuating and living inside this midden. And those paracoprids I was talking about could burrow right down, burying their dung balls right down inside there. And then when the rainy season comes, they basically just have to catch the elevator up to the top story, and then they're right in the mix and all the dung once again. But seeing as we are talking about this midden as it stands, if you go back a little bit, Senzi, you'll see that we've got a spot here, and it's a very nice hot spot of nutrients. There's obviously, they urinate here as well. There's organic material. There's all sorts of things going on here that are a little bit more sort of concentrated than just over there. If you have a look at the difference between this spot and this spot, it's very, very different. So from a nutrient point of view, the impala have made, once again, another disturbance spot, or an area of increased nitrogen, increased organic material, and sometimes you could find specific types of plants that quite enjoy growing in the different, potentially a different acidity, different uric acid content, different nitrogen content. You could find hot spots of plants growing in an impala midden itself. And what else? Why else have they done that? And it's quite interesting to note that by making a midden, the impala have also allowed all the other vegetation around where they go and feed to be free of worms. All sorts of internal parasites will be associated with impala dung and all sorts of antelope dung, and by defecating in a pile like that, they're unwittingly not distributing their worms all over the place where they're feeding. So quite a nice thing to do. A lot of people who breeding certain antelope, I've noticed in the sable antelope industry, quite a big thing in South Africa these days. They breed sable, and those guys make a lot of money out of breeding sable. But what they have to do is they have to deworm those animals, because the sable are being bred in large areas. The area is still enclosed, and they're just defecating everywhere. They're not doing in middens like that. So when they walk and they feed, internal parasites are being ingested, and internal parasites are one of the things that will lower the condition of a body. And if you're trying to grow an animal for economic gain, you want to be as big and strong as possible. Do you think the impala know that? We don't really know. We don't really know, but it's part and parcel of what happens out here. Nature, I think, is wonderful in how it works and how it is all deliberately sort of just playing its own natural part in the development of the ecosystem. And the savanna, I don't know if you know it, folks, but it is the youngest biome in the world, and it sort of created here in the African tropics and other parts of the world, sort of in due to climate change and sort of a decrease in rainfall, a little bit of an increase in temperature, a decrease in carbon in the atmosphere, and a little bit of something there. Someone dropped a lid. Pick that up, leave nothing but footprints. And us as a species evolved out here in the ecosystem with the impala, with the warthog, the zebra, the kudu, and also with the leopards.
Well, and sleepy leopards are the order of the day, except for Tingana. Seems like he continued out the property, but it's still nice that Sydney was able to find him. Well done, Sydney. That's awesome. And now they're probably, what is that? It's probably about 1.5 kilometers, maybe 2 kilometers away from each other now. I think where they were describing where it was, I'm not sure where he is now, but it's probably about that distance apart. I know viewers often want to know how far apart they are, so I think that's probably around about the distance at the moment. But they can cover that in, half an hour, if not less. So, Tingana could quite easily be back here this evening or even later this afternoon at this waterhole here with Hosana. I get the feeling like Hosana is going to stay here for a couple of days. Ebony, females can also fight over territory, so you could have Shudulu and Tandi coming to blows. But, fighting is, it's a terrible thing to get involved in a fight if you are a wild animal. Obviously, they sort of understand the real risks involved. There could be injuries, there can even be death. So they really have to weigh up that risk, and mostly it sort of gets decided just with calling and marking and doing things like that, and then they don't even need to get all the way to fight. The one that realizes that the other one is not backing down or it's bigger than it or whatever, then that one normally pushes off. I mean, we'll even see with Tingana and Hukumuri, it potentially might not even come to blows. They are sort of edging on each other's, on their boundaries or on their, where they sort of move around. And it seems like they have come into contact once or twice, but no real evidence of a massive fight. There has been a fight with Gajima, however, between Gajima and Tingana, but it seems like quite evenly matched. Maybe from Tingana's perspective with Hukumuri, he seems to not tolerate Gajima and chases him and fights with him. But with Hukumuri, maybe he understands that he's maybe a little bit more of a risk to actually engage with. So maybe that's why they are equally matched and why we don't have any real evidence of them fighting. And they may never fight. So it doesn't always come down to blows. As I say, real big risks involved there. No doctors for these guys. They don't have that mentality of, well, it's fine. If I get hurt, I'll just get it fixed. That could be their last hurrah. And they understand that. So definitely do take care around, challenging other males or other cats or females, etc. But, well, there's definitely no challenging going on here. This is just complete and utter relaxation.
Quite a very lovely sighting here. You can see the zebras are very much relaxed. So the type of zebra we have got here is the bachar zebras. I know people, they've got a confusion between the two kinds of zebras which are occurring here in South Africa. The bachar zebras as well as the Cape Mountain zebras. The bachar zebras, they have got some yellowish shadows on their stripes. The mountain zebras, they don't have yellowish shadows on their stripes. And the stripes on bachar zebras, they are coming from underneath their bellies. And the stripes on mountain zebras, they are coming halfway down to their bellies. So these zebras, they are very much interesting kick and turn mechanism. When the zebra is turned to the left, it's going to kick to the left. When it's turning to the left, it's going to kick to the right. Look at that stomach all of them, they've got big stomachs. So the big stomachs we are seeing now is not because of good grazing status. The big stomach is because of too much gases which are there in order to help them during fermentation. Zebras are one of those animals we cannot use in order to assess the condition of felt. Because if we can rely on them, even now during the dry season, we are going to think all these animals are now having nutritious grass because of their big stomachs. The social structure of the zebra is called a harem, where we have got one breeding male in charge of several females. And this thing of harems, I'm going to share with you a very interesting story. I told some of you, maybe heard me before, and maybe some of you are new to hear this story. I come from the royal family, whereby my father, he was having about 12 wives, and they were all staying in the same yard. So this thing of harems I'm seeing here done by these animals is kind of a social relationship I have been staying in. My father was having 12 wives, and they were all staying at the same yard. And apart from the 12 he had, he was having other wives outside. So zebras, their social structure is the same kind of social structure I grew up in. So the zebras, they give birth after a period of pregnancy of about approximately 364 to 367 days. So that is close to a year. And what I like about zebras is after birth, when the little one is standing together with the adults, in terms of the stomach height, is very much difficult to distinguish. So these animals, they have developed themselves an adaptation to avoid the predators to see them when having babies, because they know the zebras during hunting activities, they focus from the ground up, and if the stomach is at the same level, it's difficult to distinguish between the adults and the babies. So these animals, they prefer to feed on long grass. Now you can see they are together with the impalas there. So this, it becomes safety in numbers. When a lot of animals are feeding together, they feel safe. But which is not, when taking it to practicality, it doesn't matter. To the predators, even if it's too many, if they want something, they will still come for it. So when zebras sees the predators, they don't just run straight away. They first listen and observe, and if they see a predator, they can raise some of the calls that they are not comfortable. They keep what is called a flight distance. But a flight distance is not only to the zebras. All these animals, they've got kind of a distance whereby they will be comfortable with the distance between them and their predator. But if the predator then comes much closer than that, they've got to run away. So this group, this kind of group. So Michelle loves zebras so much. Now zebras are very much beautiful animals. Look at those other ones. They are grooming each other there. Beautiful. Look at that. So that's... Alexander, the survival of these animals, zebras and all these other antelopes, when feeding on dry grasses, what they've got to do after feeding on these dry grasses is to go and drink too much water. The challenge is when they don't have water available and they're feeding on dry grass. That is when they can lose quite a lot of weight experience problems. But for now, where we are not very far away from the nearest dam. Now I can see they are heading towards the northern direction, just about maybe 5-10 minutes walk. It is Chitwa Dam. So after feeding on this dry grass, they must go and drink a lot of water. So when the zebras and all these animals are grooming each other like we have seen earlier on, that helps to maintain the relationship in their families. So this group is led by the male called a stallion, and these young colts, the young males, sometimes they like to try and provoke the responsible males, and that for the zebras is very easy. You can read before they fight, they pull their ears back and they extend their neck and open the mouth to show off their teeth. If another one does the same body gesture, a big fight is going to take place. And they bite, eh? There is a question from Annabelle. They bite each other, especially when the young colts are trying to corner some of the females in order to establish their own families. That is where problem starts. So a group of zebras together is called a dazzle of zebras. So their stripes, they dazzle. Yeah, we can now go to Ralph. Hosanna is getting up on the other side.
Well, Hosanna has spotted some impala just up ahead of us, and the impala are coming towards us. So let's just see what happens here now. This could get quite interesting, because just over there is some impala, and they're coming our way. And I wonder if they might make their way for a drink. They would lead themselves right into the firing line. And Hosanna's just watching them very intently. He's watching them, and they're making their way in our direction. The wind is swirling. It is swirling. It's not going towards the impala, but if they had to reach a point at a 90 degrees from Hosanna, they would smell him, but they won't smell him coming straight in like this. I think they've seen us. They are a little bit nervous of us. They've spotted us now, and there's quite a few making their way, but they've just seen that it's a vehicle, and they are now continuing on. And this could get very interesting, because they might get a little bit nervous of us just sitting here in the bush, but there's all the open space for them to make their way along the road and towards the water if they wanted a drink. We'll just have to wait and see. I'll put my head down. They're looking at us, and you can see it's not a really amazingly alert. There's lots of them just walking around, ambling, so there is no real alertness or anything, so they're just watching us, but it's very relaxed. As I say, they just spotted us and just keep on walking, and Hosanna's just watching them. Now let's see what happens here. This could get interesting. Is he hungry enough? He has got a decent belly on him already, but if they come close enough here... Oh, and they're getting pushed forward a little bit. They're not far, everyone. This could get good, but they would need to come pretty close. Okay, so they are now within about 40 meters, I would say, but as I say, that wind could just be the thing that messes things up. He's not far now. That's about 40 meters away, He's watching them. And I think... But there's still this dead ground in between us and them. I don't know. They're still too far for the minute. But there's a lot of them coming now. Okay, everyone, I think we're going to just go on an action broadcast here because these impala now are right here, very close. Well, welcome aboard, everybody. We're coming to you live from the Djuma Traverse in the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa. We've got a young male leopard here. He's just lying down in the thickets with some impala coming just near to him. They're in within about 30 meters, and there is every chance that he might have a go at one of them. It is very close. They don't know that he's there. And so we're just waiting and seeing if this is going to land up in being a hunt. Because if one of these unsuspecting impala make its way in this direction, they will become dinner. So let's see what this male leopard called Hosanna does, and if he has a go at one of these impala. It would be absolutely magnificent. But well, my name is Ralph Kirsten, and I'm just going to sit here and see what happens. So join us. Let's see if this pans out. The wind is swirling slightly in their direction, so they might pick up on him soon. There, he's lifting up a little bit. They're sort of coming behind him. They're all on their way to have a drink. They're looking in our direction. They're looking almost directly at him as well, but they're not seeing him very well camouflaged there in the bushes, and he's just moving his legs. These impala have not realized that this leopard is here. He's got a very good chance here. They're not very far at all. A lot of them putting their heads down now to drink. I think they might be getting the smell of him, but they're really not sure. Now, Nicola, I'm pretty sure that a leopard could kill a Nile crocodile, especially if it was on land. I wouldn't say that it could kill one in the water, but definitely if it was sunning itself on the bank of a river and it was far enough away from the water and a leopard was hungry enough, he would definitely go for it. I've seen some videos of pumas and things doing it in I think it's somewhere in the Amazon on Facebook, but this is a whole different story here. This leopard, as I say, he has had some food in the last day, so he's maybe not as hungry as we would like, or to get that motivation a little bit more. But if one of these impala just come a little bit closer to this thicket, he will not miss it. Now, Dennis, you think that these impala are aware of him. They might be looking in our direction because of the smell. I think they've smelt him. Dennis, you might be right. A little bit of alarm calling going on now. They are a little bit edgy, but they might be thinking that it's us because there's some of them that are still going down to drink. A little bit of alarm calls going on now, but they're still not sure. I think they're a bit confused. There is a bit of a swirling wind, but a little bit edgy there, you can see next to the water, but they're still moving in, and there's some male impala that are just also doing a bit of argy-bargy between each other. There's the red-billed oxpeckers catching a ride, taking off the ticks. Now, Philip, I would say that if one of these impala come within about 10 to 15 meters, this leopard would stand a real good chance of taking it out. But from the distance they're at now, I don't think that he would be able to get enough a burst of speed, I think they would get away from him. But if one of them had to just make its way a little bit in his direction, they could get close enough. Or if another one comes along, all we can do is just wait and see. And we don't want to wish death on the impala, but we do want to see if anything magical happens here. Now, Carrie, some of those impala are darker in color at the moment because it's cold. So what they're doing is they're raising their hair. You see how those ones' hair is raised? That's like almost like a wetsuit that you would put on to keep the water trapped just close to your skin. And then you heat that water up and it keeps you warm. Well, in the same idea, these impala raise their hair and it traps air in that space, and then it heats them up. So it's because of the temperature that we're experiencing a cold front at the moment. It's rather cold, rather chilly. The impala do feel that. They're very well adapted for hot temperatures, and when it gets cold like this, they obviously do feel it, and then they raise their hair like that. Now let's see. Osana has moved a little bit because one or two of them made their way in our direction, so I think he's just going to try and reposition himself, that he is ready for an ambush. Carla, you say, come on, Osana, get some food. I see his tail twitching like he's really readying himself to go for it. And there's one or two impala here that are nearest to us drinking water that really could fall foul to him. Their heads are down. I can just see the tip of his tail in the thicket here. He'd have to give it a real bash if he had to do it. And there's one impala very close to us with his back facing us. Now, Chris, you say that you're on the edge of your seat. Well, this is a real fight, a life and death right here. And these impala are unaware that this leopard is here. So it's absolutely amazing to be here and witness this. We never know if it's going to pan out for the leopard or for the impala. Are the impala alert enough? Are they going to pick him up early enough? Are they going to be fast enough, agile, to get away from him? Or is this leopard going to have one of them for dinner? Now, he might also be looking at them and trying to identify one that's maybe a little bit weaker or is not as alert as the rest. So he might be trying to identify one. But there's a number of them, so he could definitely have a choice. This male that's quite close to us, facing away from the leopard as he starts to move away now. Now, Nina, leopards will choose their prey according to the availability of, for me at the moment now, he's going to choose one that is not aware that he's there and comes a little bit closer to this side where he is. But sometimes they can try and pick up a little, or pick out a little baby, or if they see one with a limp, or maybe one has got, any kind of physical disability, they're generally the ones that go down first. And the leopard would be able to see that. So he'd be watching and looking at all of them and trying to single one out that he'll have a better chance of catching. And, sometimes it just results in all of these impala moving off without him even trying. But then he hasn't given away his position, and there could be more animals that come later that then come a little bit closer. And maybe that's then the time for him to go. And as leopards age, their patience also grows, because young animals, young predators, they normally mess up a hunt by being impatient and trying too soon. Sometimes they can also wait too long, but generally it's all down to the waiting game, as there's a lot of impala right around here. But it's really, he's just watching and waiting. These impala still moving around. It's really anybody's guess whether this is actually going to pan out or not. So let's just give it a minute or two and just see maybe if one of these young male impala walk slowly in his direction. Just see, because he's still very focused on them, and the impala are just so relaxed that this is an ambush in the making. One of them would just have to come near to him and face the opposite way. Now, Carlo, you say it's amazing how camouflaged he is. He's literally invisible in this bush. You can't see him. If we didn't know he was there, we would literally drive past. He's in there. Just see those little spots there. That's that. But it is incredible. This impala is slowly starting to move off now. Let's just see if he even makes an attempt. As I say, full belly, maybe not coming close enough. I've seen leopards hunting with full bellies before, though, so it wouldn't be the first. And they can often kill an impala and even just go stash it up the tree and then come back down and rest. You know, they're opportunists like that. They won't waste an opportunity, but it does seem like now that this window of opportunity is slowly but surely fading and disappearing. So I do think that his chance is getting less, and I don't think he's going to actually hunt there. But everyone, thanks for joining us. Who knows, maybe this is going to escalate in a little while. It looks like all the impala have had their drink and they're moving off, and Hosana, this young male leopard, has got enough food in his belly for him not to be pressed to go and get himself some more. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, but please stay tuned some more for all our Facebook Safari Lives, because I'm sure it's not going to be long and we're going to have another one. Now, goodbye for now, everyone, and keep on watching. Right, everyone, thanks for that. We just did that quick action broadcast because there was every chance that Hosana was going to do a little bit of a kill there, or have an attempt at least. Well, at least he was interested. But, well, that's why I didn't go anywhere, and I'm not going to be moving a muscle.
A beautiful school of hippos, very relaxed. They're just swimming and opening the mouth, showing off the teeth, and some of them are even making very interesting loud noises. Listen to that. That is quite a very interesting noise, eh? So the hippopotamus, they spend much of their time in water during the day, but at night they've got to come out. All of them here will be out looking for some diet. So they are grazers. They are staying in here where there is crocodiles, there is fish, but they don't eat them. The male hippopotamus can weigh up to 1,500 to 1,800 kilograms. And females are much smaller. They can weigh just about 1,500. So hippopotamus are one of those animals which can be very much dangerous when on land. So if you come across the hippopotamus on their way back to the waterhole, it's going to give you a problem. That one is guaranteed. It's one of the animals from a group of mammals which has attacked quite a lot of people. So they can be able to go down there and submerge just for about 5 minutes and then come out. They are very much territorial. So these males, they reach maturity when they're about 6 years, but to start to breed, they start over 7.5 years. So when the hippopotamus are not happy with something or wanting to show for a challenge, you will see they will use their teeth displays. They're going to open and show off their big teeth. That is when they are provoking each other, and even sometimes they will be closing the mouth, open, closing, and splashing the water everywhere. So you can see the eyes are high up and the nose as well is right on top, so that when they face up, they can easily breathe. Arrangement of the eyes and the nose is done very nicely there. So these animals can go very fast on land. Hippopotamus, when out, can go very fast. And the interesting part is the hippopotamus cannot jump. Them and the elephants, they've got the same problem. They cannot jump. Hippopotamus don't walk like the cats, where you're going to find the front tracks and the back legs of both sides apart from each other, close to each other. The hippopotamus, where they're walking, is going to be like a vehicle. So you will see the gap between the legs. In the middle, sometimes you can even see that where he's walking, the grass in the middle is still standing. And you can be able to see it's like where the vehicle has gone past. So the hippo track is like that. Yeah, we can now go to Steve. He's got a termite mound.
Yes, well, we do, and this one doesn't seem to be that active anymore, and it looks as if an elephant has been using it as a rubbing post. You can see that it's been broken off. There's quite a lot of it broken down on the ground here. Lots of sort of rubble on the ground, very hard. I mean, let me show you. This is saliva and excrement. Look how hard that is. Imagine being able to spit something that is so glued. See, so they've got a very special cementing agent in their saliva, and all these chambers that are inside, running up and down throughout the termite mound, is what enables a beautiful airflow that moves up and down. Obviously facilitates the termites moving up and down, and they can just close vents at a time. Can you see they're kind of semi-closed? If I turn it over, you can see how they've just sort of closed it there, sort of like a vent. I didn't destroy this myself. This was seemingly an elephant who did it. And all these little chambers running in and out. And obviously certain small animals can move in there. Obviously you have to be quite small to move in there. So lots of lizards and probably snakes. The mongooses will be able to live in the larger ones. But they can also dig a little bit. But really, really cool. Look at the size of the particles. There's like some very big crystals here. They've been brought from somewhere down below to add in as larger bricks. All different types of sediment from the ground with moisture from the water table to make this relatively large mound, not very, very big. And the elephant was leaning on it to get some access to this terminalia, this silver cluster leaf, which I spoke a lot about yesterday. And if Herbie wanted to quickly, he could make a lovely bangle out of that for you. And this is quite fresh because it's still moist inside. Let's look at a nice smell. Here we go. Smell, everybody. Beautiful smell. It's a little bit, it's a very nice smell, in fact. But as we've noticed before, unbelievably bitter. Unbelievably bitter. So the elephant kind of climbed up on top here to break that down. So Conrad, you want to know how long it takes to build. Now, essentially, they reckon that a rugby ball size, about the size of a rugby ball. So let's try and put that together. There, maybe there. That's about a rugby ball. Maybe a little bit smaller than a rugby ball. A little bit bigger than the average American football. Now, some scientists reckon that it takes about 7 years to build something about that size. But obviously different climates will be different because of the activity and also the soil particles. When termites build with very sandy particles, as what we find here, the particles are quite large. So the sandy soil will make much larger termite mounds, purely because of the bricks that are being used. When you go to areas like Botswana where the termite mounds are in very clay soil, the particles are very, very small, very fine, and so it obviously takes a lot longer to build, and they don't get as big as these do. But bear in mind, every single particle that you see here has been brought down or brought up from very far down in the ground up to the top by a termite and then cemented in place with a very special saliva secretion out of the mouth. Every single block. Can you imagine? I mean, just have a look. Just have a look. All of that. That's just a handful. Take a long time. I think it's marvelous. Back into the termites. All the activity they've had for the day. Still making beautiful things, and what workers they are. But from the Bushwalk team, it is getting late, getting dark, and we are going to move on because it's getting past our bedtime. But it seems like the little chief has woken up.
Goodbye, Steve, and get home safely. Thank you, thank you. Hosana has now spotted some more impala that are making their way through towards the waterhole. They're feeding as they're going, so it's just nice to see him up and alert and really now looking to potentially hunt. And all the food is coming to him. He's in a perfect spot. This is the perfect waterhole to be next to at the moment. He's got good cover. He's got good trees to go and stash his food if he kills something. And he's got water that they're coming to him. It is absolutely perfect. I mean, what more would you want? As a leopard, he could just literally stay here. Oh, looks like he's having a look at the other impala around the back there again. Definitely stalking and quite keen on these impala. Now, Carl, yes, the prey will smell the territorial markings when they spray and so on. So generally, when a leopard is walking and spraying, he's not really going to be on the hunt. Or, you know, he might spot something that hasn't picked up the smell, and then he'll go for that. But you'll see, when they are on their sort of territorial loop, and they walk and they spray, and that their tail is up, and they're quite proud. They're not really, you know, not trying to hide themselves anymore. It looks like he's just relaxing a bit, but these impala are all making their way through here, so it's a bit of it's just a waiting game at the moment. Just got to wait for one to get close enough to him, and he's going to burst out of this little bushes here. That's really all that needs to happen. Is one just needs to come within 10 meters, I say. And he seems to just keep repositioning himself that he could pounce in the direction of where they are. But now it looks like he's maybe going to just go for another snooze. Oh well, why wouldn't you? All that action, you can see his belly there, a bit full there as well. Tenti, wild impala, I think they can get some worms, but generally they're quite good at expelling parasites. But there can be parasites that they do get. Now, I'm not a vet, but we did train in that. It was many years ago, and I can't remember which kind of internal parasites that impala would actually fall foul to. I know, obviously, with the external parasites, but the internal ones, I'm sure they'd get some kind of worms that would attach themselves in their gut. But you're welcome to send in which ones, if you know, the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Tell us. So that's how it's like an ebb and flow with watching predators when they're hunting. You know, it's like you're on the edge of your seat, and then it's just within a few seconds you sort of relax again. But then, you know, you can get a little bit too relaxed, and all of a sudden it all bursts to life again, and he's ready to go for it. And it's always when you least expect it that it actually happens. So you just literally need to be on your toes all the time, because you never know when it's going to happen. But as I say, just with him having a full belly, it does put his motivation levels, a few notches down, because hunger is the real motivation there. Obviously, as a predator, as a cat, it's like pulling a piece of string for a little kitty cat that's just had a full meal. He'll still go for it. He'll still try and catch it. But you see them, they do become a bit lethargic after a big meal. And that's pretty much what he's feeling now. But the real hunting instinct, if there's an opportunity, he won't miss it. And so that's why he's just constantly looking around, always willing to have a go, which is pretty awesome. Right, so once again, not going anywhere. We're going to stick with Hosana and see if one of these hunts or one of these impala meets his maker.
Yeah, interesting sighting for Hosana. I am now going to show you something interesting. I've just arrived here now by Twins Dam. I am from Chitwa. By the Chitwa Dam, I did not see much activities happening there. But now, here by Twins Dam as well, it is very quiet. I am going to check and investigate what is happening in this area here and see. Maybe we're going to be lucky and see something interesting. I have got something to show you now here on the ground. You can see it's quite a big size of a dropping. Obvious, this comes from the elephants. So the elephants, I use their droppings to do a lot of things. Now, this has got something to do with my traditional belief. So I come and take the elephant droppings, and I must have to go home with them. Then I must open and mix them with water by the bath and use them to bath. The reason for that is to chase away the bad luck. So the elephant droppings, according to the Venda people, one of the tribes, we use them in order to wash away the bad luck. So you're going to have to mix them. After that bath, you are going to just smell like the elephant. And you don't have to use soap. You just have to use water and the elephant droppings and just wash and wash and wash. When done, then you can have a sleep. Tomorrow morning, you will be a new person, fresh person. No bad luck, nothing. It's the beginning of everything. So now, let's carry on and see what we are going to find in this area. But hopefully, we're going to find something interesting. Yes, the tracks, I haven't seen any track. I cannot promise anything. I just picked up and now a very interesting sound from the elephants. I picked up a trumpet now. So I'm going to investigate that. Let's carry on and see what we're going to find. Oh, this sound from the elephant came from that other side. I've got to turn here and go to the other side of the dam and see if we can find them. I didn't copy that question very well, and the name of the viewer who asked the question. If you can just repeat for me, FC. Yes, the elephant droppings can be used as a fuel for cooking. So they help, and it's quite very nice because then it's part of recycling rather than to go and take the wood from the vegetation. Using the elephant dung, I think it's a good idea, and it works. I have seen it before. Let's see if we can find the elephants. So the trumpet, the sound was coming from... So while looking for the elephants, let's go to Hosana and see if there is any developments. Well, he's now shifted his focus to some of the other impala that have come around that he was initially having a look at. And there's a lot of impala moving around here. So he's just, I think, enjoying watching them. Look at that, he's got a perfect viewpoint of them as they make their way down to the Vuyatela Dam, where they would normally be underwater where they're standing in summer. But now they're just walking along in the fractured mud, lots of footprints, but it's hard as concrete down there. I've walked through there many times now. You might see them sort of slipping around in the holes a little bit. I would imagine that there's maybe some little green shoots coming up from there. That's probably what they're feeding on down there. So that's always good for a predator when the impala have their heads down like that. That would give them a chance to approach. But Hosana's just still sitting and watching. He's not making any kind of approach. He obviously doesn't want to give his position away in any way whatsoever. So none of them have picked up that he's here. There's no alarm calls. There's no alertness. There's no skittishness. Really just relaxed. And you can see there quite a few males around too. A couple of youngsters there in the background just having a small sparring session. Not really serious. A couple of really big males there as well. Now, Owen, I think that's probably Owen Davies. You say that there's lots of parasites and up to 37 recorded species of worms or parasites that are found in impala. And that's very interesting. Thanks for that, Owen. Awesome. But I'm pretty sure that most of them, it's quite similar with the ticks that they get. It's probably just, down to a natural cycle. Sometimes these parasites are, they work their way through, and it doesn't necessarily impact the animals on a big scale. Obviously, there will be the ones that do, but it's generally when the conditions deteriorate, when there's less food or less quality food available, less water, condition of the animal drops, and then these parasites start to proliferate, and that definitely then does affect them to a large degree. Whereas, when they're quite healthy and there's good amount of resource, it's sort of just goes through the cycle. The ticks latch onto them, they do their thing, they drop off, and they continue on their cycle as well. So it does assist in natural selection and survival of the fittest, and only then the strongest genes should literally go through, because when the chips are down, only the strongest survive, and then those are the genes that make it, and then it keeps that gene pool strong. But as I say, I'm not too clued up with all those parasites and all the works of veterinary science. But it's great that we've got the resource of all of you viewers to help us. So that's fantastic. Thanks, Owen. Keep on bringing it. There's people with all sorts of different backgrounds, and that's what I like about this, is we've got that resource of you guys able to help us out. Send us your information, and what are we doing? We just basically the messenger here. We're like the waiters of the bush. We're bringing the meal of wildlife to you as the viewers, and you can also give us all your thoughts and research back as well. That's fantastic. A couple of these young males. Well, that one on the right seems like he's just coming into age, but they're all tolerating each other, obviously a lot more than during the rutting season. They literally would definitely not be just standing around like this. They'd all be fighting, locking horns and snorting and grunting, and it really becomes a real spectacle and a show
and they start to rut. And it also does then make it very easy for the leopards to take out those fighting males, because they really don't care about anything else. So it's really continuing on the watching and waiting game. The sun has now set, and that's obviously why Steve has made his way back to camp, but the other vehicle, Old Sydney, hasn't.
Yeah, I am now heading towards the drainage line just to see what is in here. I haven't spotted anything. I just want to try my luck here and see if there is something hiding. Paula, yes, there is quite a lot of trees that can assist with the stomach pain. Even one of the very dangerous trees that we know, the tamboti tree, whereby you are not allowed to take the branches and bend them for cooking. For cooking or for drying, you can use the latex of the tamboti trees. You can mix it with pap, the soft pap. It does help with the stomach problems. But if you burn it, then the consequences are different. Yeah, it's looking very quiet here by the drainage line this afternoon. And I can't smell anything. You know, these animals, we do see them and sometimes we smell them. You can also easily distinguish between some of the species just from the sense of smell. I can't pick up anything here. There is quite a lot of sand here where I'm driving, and this kind of sand is used here because these animals, some of them is where they come and try and get rid of the parasites. They come and play here and rot. Yeah, now I can pick up some elephant smell. John, this river is one of the non-perennial rivers. Only during the rainy season is when it's active. After the rainy season, then it dies. I just want to check what is here on this side. Oh, one of the very, very much interesting birds. The ground hornbill. So that is one of the very pretty birds. I haven't seen the ground hornbill for quite a long time. Beautiful eyelashes. So the ground hornbills, they prefer to feed on animals such as frogs. So they've got a very nice long beak facing down. It's very difficult for them to drink water. So they get quite a lot of water from the moisture from their diet. So they go around here and you will see them catching quite a lot of insects, and they catch them. You'll see them holding a lot of insects right on that long beak. And how they drink is very much interesting. They're always there by the water holes, but they can't drink because the mouth structure doesn't allow them to collect water. So let me see if maybe I can reallocate that bird. Yeah, I've only seen one here. I'm just trying to check if maybe it's quite a few of them. So far I have got one. No, now he got disappeared. I can't see where he got disappeared to. I thought maybe when coming up this side, I was going to have another sighting. So now we can go to Ralph. He's got an Impala.
Well, we've got a few of them there, and they're all sort of slowly making their way up into the grass. And they're doing quite a bit of feeding, and we're in our infrared now, so the night vision, we don't have to throw a light or a spotlight down on them, and we can continue to watch them because they're not seeing this light, and I can't see. You can't see it with the naked eye either. It's just obviously the infrared, so it doesn't have an effect on their eyes at all, and you can see how they then just completely continue on naturally. Behaving naturally, I should say. Better English. Sorry, Mex, can I get that question again? I didn't quite understand it. Sorry, my brain wasn't in it there. Okay. Phyllis, you want to know about how much distance does a prey need to outrun a predator? Well, you know, they generally, I would say leopard, it all depends on what they're chasing. You know, if it's a little bit of a slower antelope and it depends on the terrain as well. But I generally say within 20 meters, they need to get so the burst from 20 meters could leave them with about 10 meters gap when the prey actually realizes that the predator's on its way. And at that stage, it needs to try and burst and accelerate away. Whereas at that time, the predator's already at full tilt. So within the 20-meter mark, I would say is ideal. And obviously, different predators need different distances. So a lion can continue on maybe a little bit longer than a leopard, I would say, and can chase from a little bit further. A leopard has got real explosive acceleration, but not a real good top end. I would say lions are probably in between cheetah and leopards, where they've got a decent explosion and also a decent top end where they can continue on, whereas a leopard is, for me, almost pure acceleration, and can't go on for long. And a cheetah, well, we know their exploits. They can really hit extreme speeds, and they can hold it up for, a minute or maybe a minute and a half. So, but that at that speed is a very long distance. So for me, the leopard's more so a sort of ambush hunter. It needs to be quite close to the prey. And I would say cheetah and lion can probably chase down from further distance than a leopard can. But for pure ambush and stealth, there's no beating a leopard. So they've all got their particular strengths and slight weaknesses with their hunting technique. Now, they're all really focused in one direction. Maybe they've got a bit of a swirling smell once again of Tingana. They're in a little bit of a bowl down there. So there's every possibility that a little bit of a swirling wind could, just take a bit of a scent to them. Tiffany, well, as you can see, the females don't have horns, so the only thing they can do is kick, really, and their major defense is the stot that they do. So they will run, and then they've got this really weird jumping motion that they do. and that's obviously showing that they're agile and they can get away, etc. So their sort of flexibility and agility is their only defense, being that of the females. The males do have horns, but they don't particularly use it in defense against predators. It's more so just for fighting with other males. They can sort of swing it a little bit at you sometimes, or a predator, but yeah, they're not amazingly used as a defense, I would say. Mostly just fighting between each other. So their real defense against predators is their agility, their speed, and also if a predator runs at them now, they're going to all disperse. Everybody go just in straight different directions. And so quite difficult for the predator to actually pick one out. He needs to have done that before, and just stick with that one. Don't change your mind, just go for that one, and don't lose sight of him. And when they're dispersing, it's quite difficult to do. But you see how there's this odd nervousness. I'm almost 100% sure that it's because of a swirling scent that's just making its way to them. Not fully, they're not smelling it cleanly, so it's just like they can just sense it, but I'm pretty sure that it's just with an odd, slight smell of a leopard around. There's an odd little alarm call, but they're not really going for it fully, that they've identified that there definitely is a leopard nearby. And they just sort of think there might be one, because it sort of smells like one, but maybe not. And you must think, I mean, it's just they have to be really on their toes, because it is quite literally a matter of life and death.
I am now at the beginning of my night drive. I have got my spotlight on now just to try and see if there is any activities taking place here in this area. So I haven't spotted anything yet. I haven't spotted anything yet here. Maybe we're gonna be lucky and find something. If I see any eyes shining, I'm going to check. So some of these animals Yes, I've got a question from Kenty. I didn't get the question, I just got the name of the viewer, but I just heard the cheetah. I didn't hear what the cheetah is doing. I still didn't get the question clearly. The cheetahs, they do make noise. It's just that it's not a loud, it's not like a loud sound. You can hear it when the cheetahs are not happy. Sometimes you hear them, they charge. They do something like they will do that while they are opening and trying to show off their teeth, but their teeth are not that very big. I'm just trying to check here if we can find something. Yeah, now let's go to Ralph and see what Hassana is doing on the other side.
Well, he's not doing much, and once again, it's beautiful to see how well camouflaged he is in there. But he's just keeping himself hidden. His impala is still grazing around, and so he's doing very well to stay there and not give his position away. Now, Lynn and Karen, that is a very good question. Why do these guys eat dung? And in particular, buffalo dung. They really, really like it. I don't know. Unless it's that there is some kind of mucus or something that gets passed through, and it's got a nice taste to it. I don't know, but I've seen that's actually a very good question, and I don't know the answer to it. I haven't spoken to anybody that does know the answer to it. All we know is that leopards really have a sort of taste for buffalo dung. And it's incredible. When they come across it, they just sit there, and it's almost like they're eating catnip. Maybe that's something got to do with it. Maybe it's the grass that the buffalo eat, or really, it's flummoxed me. And once again, if anybody's got the answer there, send it to the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. But we know that they eat dung. That's not the question. Why do they eat it? There must be some scientific reason behind it. Or that it's just maybe that they like the taste. It could be just something as simple as that. Sometimes the simple answer is the better one. It's like this morning when we had the debate about the frog in the zebra track. Now, the reason behind it being called a frog was sort of debated, and the best answer that I think came out was the simplest one, because it looks like one. We know that little organ there is meant, or is functions as a bit of a shock absorber, etc. But the reason why it was called a frog was, not really well known, and there's lots of theories, but that one that it looks like one sounds about the most logical to me. There's also something about a German word for frass, and that being, I think, something around a shock absorber as well. I can't remember the exact answer there, but and then maybe just the name being a little bit changed into frog. But I still think the simpler answer is the most logical one. And that's probably the case here as well. Why do leopards eat buffalo dung? And maybe it's just a flavor or taste that they've accustomed themselves to, and they like it. Maybe it's as simple as that. But, these impala are surviving for now.
Still very much quiet where I am. I am not seeing any activities taking place here. We do have some of the African trees that if you drink their roots and the bark, it can assist you when it comes to the problems with regards to the malaria. Some of the trees where I come from, and some of them I saw them here, because some of the trees, like I will show you if I see it in future, there is a tree which is called weeping whittle, whereby if you drink the water from the bark, it can also help you when it comes to the malaria. So it can work and protect you against those kind of problems. Yeah, still no sign of activities taking place here. I was hoping to find something rare. Or even the scrub hares, they are avoiding me tonight. I haven't seen a scrub hare yet, which is very much unusual. Oh, I'm not yet lost. I was just by the drainage, so I'm just checking by the other side of the drainage to see if there's any other activities. Because earlier on, I did pick up some sound. The elephants, they gave an ultrasound. So I was trying to investigate that, but because elephants don't like lights and spotlights and everything, I then decided to change my mind and leave them and see if I can find something else. Safari South, I got the question if there are animals that are praying for some of the things at night. Yes, remember, animals such as some of the birds, such as the owls, that is where now they are looking for some meal. There are quite a lot of animals which are more active now, trying to find something to eat. Those are the animals that are always avoiding competition, because during the day there's too much competition of food. At night there's no much competition. We can now go to Ralph and see maybe Hosanna is doing something on his side.
The only thing he's doing is acting like a tree or a bush. He's in there, just on the right-hand side. Can you spot him? Spot the leopard. There he is. He's in there. And it is absolutely incredible. I'll just never get enough of that camouflage. Now, Steve, I like that question. Are leopards cannibalistic? Not normally, no. And the reason why I say normally is because I could have said absolutely not. Generally predators don't eat predators, and I say generally. But many cases of, in different circumstances, leopards might kill another leopard, whether it's a young one or if it was through territorial fighting or whatever, and might eat some of it. Normally that wouldn't happen. They'd normally kill it and leave it. But sometimes, especially if there's not that much food around, then they could have a fight over resources next to a waterhole where their territories overlap. And it's very often when the resources are low that you'll have an increase in conflict. And then you can definitely have a hungry leopard wouldn't pass up eating another leopard if it had killed it. So that can happen. Hyenas can do it. Lions can do it. It all depends on how hungry they are. And that goes without saying across the board with animals and humans. We would do strange things, as a result of hunger. And if you've ever experienced being real hungry, you might understand that your mentality does change. And that's not to say everybody's the same, but in general, your mentality will change. And that's a given, and there's no getting around that. Whether or not you will do certain things would only be down to when you're actually in that position. You cannot say when you've got a full belly that you wouldn't do something if you were hungry. You need to wait until you're hungry to be able to say that you wouldn't do it, if you see what I mean. So, look at this. Hosanna, I think, is going to be here for a few days now, and I'm hoping that he doesn't go anywhere anytime soon. It's been an absolutely wonderful day, and I think this is going to be carrying on. So you need to join us again tomorrow, everybody, and we're going to see. Once he gets a little bit hungry as well, as I've been saying, I think his motivation to catch one of these impala is going to grow. So, folks, once again, coming down now to the end of the show. It has been a wonderful day, and thank you so much to Hosanna for being here. Please don't go anywhere, buddy. And, well, these impala seems like they're lucky for now. He's got a full belly, But folks, thanks so much. Thanks to all of you. And please join us again tomorrow. So bye for now.